James, a 28-year-old EMT, was heading home after a long shift when he spotted an elderly man standing alone on a cold city street. The man looked disoriented and fragile. Despite his exhaustion, James felt compelled to stop. "Sir, are you okay? Do you need help?" he asked gently. The old man, shivering and confused, admitted he couldn't remember where he lived. James decided to drive him to a nearby shelter. During the ride, under the dim glow of passing streetlights, the old man spoke softly about a life full of regrets, of a son he hadn't seen in decades and the choices that drove them apart. "I had a boy once, smart like you. I wasn't there when he needed me." James listened, a strange sense of familiarity growing in his chest. At the shelter, when the man hesitated to give his full name, something clicked. "Thomas Avery," the old man finally said. James froze. It was the name on his birth certificate, his father, who had vanished when he was just 3 years old. Overwhelmed, James stepped outside, the truth weighing heavy on his heart. Under a flickering street lamp, James confronted him. Thomas didn't recognize his son but wept for the boy he abandoned. "I wish I could go back and tell that boy I never stopped loving him." James choked back tears. "Maybe you just did." Weeks later, Thomas sat at James's kitchen table. The past hadn't vanished, but love, forgiveness, and second chances were beginning to rewrite it. Inside James' old pickup, the hum of the engine filled the silence between them. The dashboard lights cast a soft glow on the old man's weary face. James offered him a blanket from the back seat and turned the heat up. The man clutched it gratefully, his hands trembling. They drove through the quiet streets, city lights blurring past. After a while, the man spoke, his voice raspy and broken. "Used to live around here, a long time ago," he murmured. "Had a family once. A little boy. Bright eyes. Smart like you." James glanced at him, intrigued. "Where are they now?" The old man gave a tired smile, eyes distant. "I left them. Made mistakes. Told myself I'd go back, but time just slipped away. I don't even know if my boy's still around." James's heart tensed. There was something in the man's voice, regret, sorrow, honesty. It stirred something buried deep inside. His own father had left when he was just a toddler. He barely remembered the man, only stories from his mother and a single faded photo. Still, James felt empathy. Whatever this stranger had done, tonight he was just a lost old man trying to survive. They drove on in silence for a while. The old man's eyes closed, a tear sliding down his cheek. James tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He didn't know this man's full story, but for now, he knew he couldn't leave him alone. They arrived at the small community shelter just before midnight. The building was modest but warm, glowing with soft lights that spilled onto the snowy sidewalk. James helped the old man out of the truck, steadying him as they walked toward the entrance. Inside, the receptionist greeted them with a tired but kind smile. "Name, sir?" she asked gently, typing into the computer. The old man hesitated. His brow furrowed. For a long moment, he looked lost again, then finally, he spoke. "Thomas. Thomas Avery." James froze. The name hit him like a punch to the chest. His ears rang. That name. He hadn't heard it aloud in years, but he had seen it, on a tattered birth certificate folded neatly inside a box of childhood memories. His father's name. James took a step back, stunned. His breath caught in his throat as he stared at the man he had just helped, suddenly seeing him differently. The same tired eyes. The same jawline he had seen in the mirror. "Your name is Thomas Avery?" he asked in a whisper. The old man turned slowly, puzzled. "Yes. I think so." James's heart pounded. The man didn't recognize him. Didn't know the person who had driven him, comforted him, was his own son. James stepped outside, overwhelmed. His chest ached, not with anger, but confusion, disbelief, and something he couldn't yet name. The past had found him when he least expected it, sitting in the passenger seat of his truck. James stood outside the shelter, the cold night air biting at his skin, but he barely felt it. His thoughts raced. That man, Thomas Avery, was his father. The one who disappeared without a word. The man he had grown up resenting, imagining 1,000 confrontations that never came. And now he was here, fragile, confused, and unaware. Moments later, Thomas stepped out, wrapped in the blanket James had given him. "You okay, son?" he asked kindly, not knowing the weight behind the word. James turned, emotions bubbling to the surface. "Do you remember a woman named Angela? A little boy named James?" His voice trembled. Thomas's expression shifted. Pain flickered in his eyes. I had a son named James. His mother, Angela, she was everything good. But I failed them. I left. I thought I'd come back. But then I didn't, and the longer I stayed away, the harder it became." He looked down, tears forming. "I don't even know what he looks like now. I doubt he'd forgive me." James's throat tightened. "He might surprise you," he whispered. Thomas wiped his eyes. "If I could say one thing to that boy, I'd tell him I never stopped loving him. That I regret every second I wasn't there." Silence hung in the air. James stepped closer, voice cracking. "Maybe you just did." Thomas looked at him, confused, but James didn't explain. Not yet. The truth could wait. What mattered now was that, somehow, this night had become a beginning, instead of just an ending. Weeks had passed since that cold night, but the memory lingered like a quiet echo in James's heart. He hadn't planned to see Thomas again after the shelter. But something inside him wouldn't let go. The man may not have remembered their connection, but James did. And somewhere between pain and compassion, forgiveness had started to take root. Now, Thomas sat at James's small kitchen table, wearing clean clothes and sipping tea. Sunlight poured through the window, warming the room. He looked healthier, stronger. His memory was still fragile, but moments of clarity had begun to return. "That picture on the shelf," Thomas said one morning, pointing to a framed photo of James as a boy. "He looks like you." James paused, his voice gentle. "That is me." Thomas stared for a long time. Then something shifted, recognition, slow but real, dawning in his eyes. "James." James nodded, a soft smile forming. "Yeah. I'm your son." Tears welled in Thomas's eyes. He reached for James's hand with trembling fingers. "I never thought I'd see you again. Not like this. I don't deserve this." "You don't have to," James said, squeezing his hand. "You're here now. That's enough." The two sat in silence, the years between them melting away with every passing second. What was broken had not been erased, but it was being healed. He had helped a lost old man that night, never knowing he was really finding a father, and the missing piece of his own heart.